Hi everyone, I'm Margaret, a board member of TaiwaneseAmerican.org. We're here today with Karin Wang, Vice President of Programs and Communications of the Asian Pacific American Legal Center, the nation's largest legal civil rights organization for Asian Pacific Islanders. Karin is not only Taiwanese American, but also an old school TAFer from when the camp was located in Michigan. Karin, could you tell me a little bit about your passions as a lawyer?
Sure. I'd probably say my main passion and what's driven my career has been working in and with the Asian American community. And I think that started really because I grew up in the Midwest, where my identity as an Asian American was formed really early. It was really hard to avoid the fact that I looked different from other people. Everyone made me really self-conscious about it. And I think as a result, it made me understand issues of race at a very early age. And I think what's interesting is when I went to TAF, old school TAF, as you said, in Michigan, it was one of the first times that I was able to put a name to my identity and to understand that there was something very distinct about being Taiwanese American, and that there was something special about it, something to be proud of. And I think that actually really helped me to appreciate being first a Taiwanese American and later an Asian American, because up until that point all I knew was that I grew up in a place where everybody was white and I wasn't, and they made me feel very different and out of place about it. So in an interesting way, TAF really helped to shape my career as an Asian American civil rights lawyer, because it helped me to name race as something that was important to me, and that became a focal part of my career and is now one of my passions. What I work on is issues that affect Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders.
Well, many of our audience members are very involved in the Taiwanese American community, but could you tell us why they should also get involved with the broader Asian American community?
Sure. I mean, I think it's great that the Taiwanese American community cares so much about being identified as Taiwanese American. I think the campaigns around the census, for example, to mark Taiwanese American have been extremely successful, and I think that that's definitely important and people should hang on to that. But for me, I hope people will go through the same process I went through, which is that you first identify as Taiwanese American, but then in a place like America, you realize that Taiwanese American is still a very small community compared to all the millions of people who live in your city, your state, in the country, and that if we really want to change things or to be taken seriously, you do actually have to work with other communities and identify with them. And that's why I think being Asian American is actually more powerful to me, or as powerful as being Taiwanese American. Like, it's important to be Taiwanese American because you know where you come from, you know the things that define you, like the foods, the culture, the language, and that's really important to know where you come from. But then it's also really important to see how being Taiwanese American is connected to being Korean American or Pakistani American, and how we share certain things in common, and that when we work together, we can actually be more impactful. So, you know, these are all immigrant communities, and there are many issues in America that affect immigrants. And if we don't work together, Taiwanese Americans alone aren't going to get what they need and make the changes they want to make. So, yeah, so that's what I would say.
Now, APALC is this sort of pan-Asian American organization that works with a lot of different immigrant communities, and I was wondering if you'd talk a little bit about how the organization, what the organization does to relate to the communities and sort of build coalitions and how do you develop ties?
Sure. It's actually a big part of the philosophy of the Asian Pacific American Legal Center to work across communities and to unite communities that find commonalities, so that you know, there are groups that are very ethnic specific, so they work in the Chinese or the Taiwanese or the Korean or the Indian or the Tongan community, and those are important. But our role, and what I really love about the work I do, is seeing how different issues are similar across communities. So immigration, for example, is one issue where many Asian and Pacific Islander communities actually share a lot in common. For example, for many Asian communities, there are long periods that people have to wait to come into this country legally. And we bring people together to see how Koreans have a lot in common with Chinese, have a lot in common with Indians, and then we work together to change laws to make those laws work better for our communities. And that's really important to us, because if we can bring people together, then our voice is more powerful, and it's more likely that the president or Congress or a state legislator would actually listen to us, versus one community going alone and saying, hey, I've got this issue, you know, will you help me with it? And that's a big overarching philosophy of the civil rights work of our organization.
Mm-hmm. What is a major civil rights issue that our audience should be aware of?
Well, unfortunately, you would think in this time and age that we would actually not have a whole lot of civil rights issues because it's been decades since the civil rights movement started. But the reality is that there's still a lot of inequity, that there's still a lot of issues of justice. And I think what's interesting is that there is no one issue. What makes the community interesting is that there's so many different issues. So immigration, I said earlier, is one of them. I think another interesting issue that I've worked on a lot, which I think people find unusual because it's actually gay and lesbian rights. And there's actually a connection for me back to the Taiwanese community. And so the way I would explain that is that, I'm not someone that identifies as gay or lesbian, but it is a civil rights issue in this time and age. There's a lot of issues that community is facing. And I think it's actually interesting because for a lot of gay and lesbians, what they're struggling with is self-determination, the ability to identify themselves as they identify and to be able to have access to the same rights as everybody else. And to me, I think one of the early lessons I learned as a Taiwanese American when I went to TAF and from my parents was that the Taiwanese identity is so much about self-determination, being able to identify ourselves as Taiwanese and not Chinese, and to have that identity taken seriously. And so it's interesting because I think learning that lesson early helped me to be a good ally to the gay and lesbian community. So it might not be the issue that everybody wants to work on, but I do think as Taiwanese Americans, it's actually an issue that we should care about because there are some interesting parallels between what many Taiwanese want, which is self-determination and the right to claim my own identity, and other communities like the gay and lesbian community. I just think that oftentimes we don't stop to think how those issues are connected and we just stay focused on our own communities. So I would hope that Taiwanese Americans would actually be able to see not just the Taiwanese American community issues, but how they relate to other issues going on around us.
Wow, thank you so much for joining us, Karin. I really appreciated learning about your experiences as a Taiwanese American working on broader Asian American issues, and it's definitely given all of us something to think about. Thank you for tuning in to TaiwaneseAmerican.org, and check out our website for other features.
Bye!